All right, playoff expansion. How many teams should there be? How many teams are there going to be? How do we decide which teams make the playoffs? Is it going to be all automatic qualifiers? Is it going to be all a committee selecting the teams? Is it going to be a combination of the two? Are there going to be home games? Should there be home games? How many rounds of home games? Should there be byes? Should there not be byes? What about Notre Dame? What about the group of five? Conference expansion. When's the next round of conference expansion? Which one of these teams is going to that league? Which league is going away? Which teams are suing to get out of their league? Are they going to win? Are they leaving? If they're leaving, when are they leaving? How many conference games should these conferences be playing? The Big 12 and the Big 10 play 9. The SEC and the ACC play 8, which is the right number. Should they all be the same? Should the SEC and the ACC go to 9? Should the Big 10 and the Big 12 come back to 8? How many power conference games total should you be playing in a season? 12-game regular season. If you play 9 conference games, should you be required to play one additional power opponent outside of the conference for a total of 10 games against power opponents? If you're the SEC and you choose to stay at 8, should you be required to then play 2 power opponents so that you're at least playing the same number of power opponents as the other conferences? Or what about conference championship games? Are they going away now that we're expanding the playoff? And, it's just an extra opportunity for teams to lose. And instead of having a conference championship game, are we going to declare a regular season conference champion, sort of like they do in basketball, and then have a mini conference tournament the first weekend in December, where maybe whoever is declared the conference champion in the regular season gets to sit out that tournament because they're automatically into playoffs? And then you take, maybe, the team 2 versus team 7, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5, and then those winners get in the... I absolutely hate talking about all of this. It drives me up the wall. And for the last 3 or 4 years, particularly in the off season, this seems to be all you hear, all you read. For some people, it's all they want to know about. For some people, it's all they want to talk about. I absolutely hate it. I like watching college football and reacting to it. Now, obviously, college football's regular season is one of the shortest of any major sport in the country. We only have really about 4 months of football when you're talking September, October, November, and December. I guess you can throw January in there now with the expanded playoffs and national championship games not happening until the 20th. But still, the reality is you got a huge off season. And yeah, I sit around every offseason struggling for things to talk about or topics to discuss and things like that. But when it comes to these just never-ending debates, arguments, impossible scenarios around things like conference expansion, which teams are going where, which conferences are going away, how many teams are we going to in the playoffs, how are we going to decide who gets in the playoffs, how many conference games should we be? It's almost like it's almost like when you drink a Slurpee too fast. I just get brain freeze, and I get tired of hearing about it. I get tired of talking about it. I get tired of reading about it. But I get asked about it all the time. I've done a handful of videos maybe over the years when it comes to things like conference expansion, playoff expansion, things like that. I just absolutely hate talking about it. I'm more of a watch and react type of guy. And to be honest with you, as much as I love college football, I'm getting to the point now where I'm almost just tuning a lot of this stuff out. It's gotten ridiculous to a point. There was a phase on YouTube about 2 years ago where it seemed like every college football YouTuber was making 25 conference realignment videos a week. And I completely stayed away from it all because it's just mind-numbing to me. But I'm going to make this video and I'm going to run through these topics that I get asked about all the time that I don't want to say I couldn't care less. I just want to know. I just want to know what's going to happen. At this point anymore, I almost don't even have any opinions or like I want it to be this way as opposed to this. I almost don't even care about that anymore. Somebody just pick something and let's go with that for an extended period of time, so that we don't have to spend every offseason from now to the end of time debating this stuff. Never ending. I'm honestly over it. I'm honestly over it. But I'm going to go through these topics one by one and give you sort of some thoughts and opinions on it. Okay, now let's start with the playoffs. I had no problem with the 4-team playoff. 0. I also had no problem when they decided to expand to 12. I don't have a problem if they expand to 14 or 16. The bottom line with the playoff expansion is I really don't care whether they stayed at 4. Now that we're at 12, I don't care if we stay at 12. If they want to go to 14 or 16, go to 14 or 16. I really don't even care anymore how many teams. But however many teams they decide, can we stick with that for a while? You know, for 100 years in college football, we had nothing but random bowl matchups at the end of the year, and then groups of media writers designating a national champion. People finally got fed up with that, so we were force-fed to BCS. Now you got a lot of people now that go, oh, I wish we'd go back to the BCS. All of those people complained nonstop during the BCS era. I was alive during the BCS era. Hardly anybody liked it in real time. Now, suddenly, people seem to want to go back to it. Anyway, so we go to the BCS era, the 1 versus 2 matchup. All of a sudden, the third team is mad every year, so we go to a 4-team playoff. Now, to their credit, when they agreed on the 4-team playoff, they at least agreed to a 10-year run of the 4-team playoff. Okay? 10 years is enough time to look at something, see how it's working. If it's not working, what tweaks need to be made. Do we need to totally overhaul it? Do we need to just make minor changes to the 4-team play? So 10 years is a long enough period of time to do that. And that's what they did. And they decided, no, 4 teams is not enough. We're greedy. We want more money. We need to go to 12. Okay. I don't have a problem with that. More college football in December and January. More big games in December and January. I was completely on board with the 12-team playoff. After watching the 12-team playoff last year, I thought it was fine. I didn't have any problems with it. The seeding, I think, could be tweaked, but we're talking about a minor change to the existing 12-team format, you know? Instead of Arizona State finishing 16th in the final playoff poll, but getting bumped all the way up to 4th or whatever, just move them up to 12. That's more of a straight seeding model. That's a minor tweak, though, to the existing thing. But is that what they decided to do? No. For some reason now, after 1 year of a 12-team playoff, they've decided that's no good. We got to change it all up again. We either got to go to 14 or 16, and then how do we choose those 14 or 16? Well, is it going to be a 5 plus 11? Is it going to be 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1? Are we going to have a committee? Are we not going to have a committee? Are there going to be automatic qualifiers? Are there not going to be automatic qualifiers? Are there going to be bye weeks? Are there not going to be bye weeks? Are we going to have home games? If so, how many rounds of home games? Or are we not going to have home games in an effort to save the Gasparilla Bowl? So 2 years, or 1 year, it was not enough to determine that. Not enough at all. Never mind the fact I enjoyed the 12-team playoff. People complained about blowouts, but I've talked about that till I'm blue in the face. Blowouts have been a part of college football for 120 years. If you don't like blowouts, I don't understand why you're a college football fan. Well, maybe that's not the right way to say it. I don't think anybody enjoys watching a blowout. But to say that blowouts are the reason the 12-team playoff was no good, I completely disagree with that. 80% of the games in a 4-team playoff were blowouts. College football is not a parity sport. There's haves and have-nots, and there's always going to be. You're never going to make an equal playing field. Some team, usually the top 1, 2, or 3 teams in the country, a lot of times just the top 1 team in the country, is multiple touchdowns better than everyone else. And you get a lot of blowouts. So I don't care about that. But they only signed a 2-year deal when they went to the 12-team playoff. That was the first mistake. But then even after just the first year of 12 teams, they've got to completely throw it away. We need something new. They can't agree on it. We don't know whether we're going to 14 or 16. I don't care. Pick one. But whatever you pick and whatever format you pick, can we agree to a 10-year trial, a 10-year run? This idea that we're going to upend all of college football every year or two is complete insanity. It makes no sense at all. 1 or 2 years is not enough time to judge how the 12-team playoff is working. Again, if you want to make minor tweaks to the existing model, that's one thing. But that's not what they're talking about doing. They want to throw the whole thing out. And of course, they've been talking about this for over a year. Nobody can agree. The Big Ten and the SEC agree that they should be in charge, but they don't agree amongst the two of them on how it should go. The ACC and the Big 12 don't like that the SEC and the Big Ten are in charge, but they agreed to it, so they're kind of just along for the ride. They're making suggestions, but they have no real decision-making authority. It's a complete mess. It's a complete mess. And we shouldn't be going through any of this right now. Because when they went to 12 teams, it never should have been a 2-year deal. It should have been a 10-year deal minimum. And then once you get into year 7, 8, or 9 of that 10-year deal, that's when you start sitting down, looking back over the previous 7 or 8 years at that point of the 12-team playoff and going, okay, what worked? What didn't work? What do we need to change? What do we need to tweak? What do we need to get rid of completely? Doing it for 2 years was a huge part of the problem. And now here we are. So what if I could snap my fingers and fix it? Again, I don't really have a preference. 4, 12, 14, 16, automatic qualifiers, no automatic qualifiers. Do we need a playoff committee? Do we not need a playoff committee? I don't really have a preference one way or the other. I'm one of the people that happen to think the playoff committee gets it mostly right every year. There's been several years where Georgia during a 4-team playoff finished 5th or 6th. I didn't have a problem with that. Georgia lost a game they shouldn't have lost is why they didn't get in. Last year, Alabama, South Carolina, Ole Miss sitting around pouting and crying into their Cheerios because they had 3 losses. Ole Miss lost to a Kentucky team that only won 1 conference game. Alabama lost to 2 teams with 500 records, Vandy and Oklahoma. Don't lose those games. Like, they didn't deserve to be in that 12-team playoff, but they cried nonetheless. But so the committee, I think, has done a decent job. Have they been perfect? No, but it's subjective. That's the whole point of the committee is that it's subjective. So anyway, if you like the committee, great. If you don't, get rid of it. But here's the thing. Here's what I would do with the playoffs. I'm all over the place here. Playoffs, automatic qualifiers, committee, should we have one, should we not? Number of teams, should there be home games, should there be bye weeks, and what about the group of 5? I made a video about this before, like a 20-minute thing where I went into detail, so I'm just going to give you the Cliff Notes version here. If I could snap my fingers, I'm making a 16-team playoff where 4 teams from each of the 4 major conferences get in, and that's it. The idea that you can't explain the playoff system to a casual college football fan is a problem. Sit down with somebody who either doesn't watch college football or who only watches it casually and try to explain to them the 4-4-2-2-1-1 model. Just sit down and try to explain it to them. And who gets in and how many teams from which leagues get in and how they determine whether or not Notre Dame gets in and what the committee's role in all of that is and where the round 1 games are played and why they're played there, who gets the buys and why they get the buy. Just try to explain that to somebody. It's way too confusing. It's way too confusing. Now, idiots like me and probably you, if you're watching a college football video in the middle of June, yeah, you're going to understand it because you're going to take the time necessary to sit down and comb through everything to sort of figure it out. But the average idiot that's sitting around watching college football can't understand why one team is in the playoffs and another one's not. Why one team has a bye but another team doesn't. Why did this team do so good all year long but they don't get a home playoff game whereas this team does? Like, it's just way too confusing. You hate the committee. You don't like the committee. You think it's biased, whatever it is. You think they just get it wrong, whatever the reason. You don't like the playoff committee. The only way to do away with any sort of playoff selection committee right now is to go to a strictly automatic qualification system. And if you think that's a terrible idea, then ask yourself this: why does every other sports league on the planet have an automatic qualification system? Look at the NFL. There's no committee at the end of the year going, I know this team had a better record than that team, but you know what? This team's schedule was a little bit harder, so we're going to put them in instead of that team. And this team lost on the road, whereas this team lost at home. So even though that team deserves to be in and has a better record, we're going to take them out. None of that happens. None of that happens. You win your division, you're in. You're one of the top 2 teams in your conference, you get a bye. You're one of the next 2 teams record-wise, you get a wild card. It's cut and dry. It's black and white. It makes perfect sense. Baseball works the same way. NBA, hockey, literally every other sport on the planet, but not college football. We have to have a room of people to sit down and explain to us why a 9-3 Alabama team is somehow better than an 11-1 SMU team. So again, and I'm somebody that thinks the committee has got it right. So if you're out there and you want to keep the committee, okay. But you're going to have people sitting in a room hand-picking the playoff games. That's if you're against automatic qualification, The only other option is people sitting in a room handpicking teams. You have to be for one or the other. You can't hate both. That's the only two ways to do it. You're either going to have a room of people picking playoff teams, or you're going to have automatic qualifications. I would have 4 major conferences. I would expand them to 20 teams each at most. I would divide each of those conferences into 2 10-team divisions. I would let each conference play 9 or require each conference to play 9 conference games plus at least 1 additional Power 5 opponent every single year for a total of 10 power opponents per year. The other 2 games, you can play an FCS team, you can play a group of 5 team, you can play the local middle school, you can play whoever you want. But those games would be weeks 1 and 2. Starting in week 3, everybody would play conference, or starting in week 4, everybody would play conference schedules from there on out. No more playing Mercer at the end of November. No more playing the Citadel at the end of November. No more playing Charleston Southern at the end of November. You'd play 2 elementary schools in week 1 and week 2. You'd play a non-con game against a power opponent in week 3. And then you would play your 9 conference games with 2 bye weeks. The regular season would wrap up the same time it wraps up now, Thanksgiving weekend. And then here's what we would do for conference championships and playoff determination. Each conference would be responsible for naming a regular season conference champion. Now, the way that would work, best record. I mean, the same way it works in every other sport. Oh, well, Florida's schedule was harder than Texas's. So even though Texas was 12-0 and Florida was 9-3, Florida should be in. No, don't lose 3 games. So you would declare a regular season conference champion. That regular season conference champion is in the playoffs. That's it. They're in. How do you determine the other 3 teams from each conference that gets into the playoff? Well, I've got 2 ideas. Number 1. You just take the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th team in the conference and you put them in. And that's it. There is no conference championship weekend. I don't prefer that. But if for some reason somebody wants to do that, you just take the top 4 teams at the top of the conference standings at the end of the regular season. And those 4 teams go to the playoffs from each of the 4 conferences. That would give you 16 teams. That's, if you want to do that, great. What I would prefer is the regular season conference champion gets in automatically. You then, on the first Saturday in December, where right now we play conference championship games, I'd take that first Saturday in December, and I would play the team 2 in the SEC versus team 7 in the SEC. I would take team 3 in the SEC and make them play team 6 in the SEC, and I would take team 4 and make them play team 5. And I'm saying SEC, but all 4 conferences would do this. That's 3 games per conference played on Conference Championship Saturday. The winners of those 3 games are in the playoffs along with the team you already sent in as regular season conference champion. This gives the top 7 teams in every conference the ability to make the playoffs by winning 1 game on Conference Championship Saturday. And you say, because people want to preserve the regular season, make it important. Every game needs to count. Well, then win your games in November and get the 2 or the 3 seed so that you can play the 6 or the 7 team instead of getting the 5 or the 6 seed. So you have to play the 3 or the 4 team. That's the benefit of winning in the regular season. That keeps the regular season meaningful. Seeding that elimination game on Conference Championship Saturday. You finished 2nd in the SEC. Congratulations. In order to get in the playoffs, all you have to do is beat the 7th best team in the SEC. That's it. Beat them and you're in. If you're the 7th best team in the SEC or you're 7th in the standings, but you think you're really the 2nd best team in the SEC, it's just that your schedule was harder than the other team, great. Go prove it by beating the team that finished 2nd and you're in the playoffs. That's Conference Championship Saturday. 3 games in each conference. 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5. A home game. The higher seed gets the home game. You then have 4 playoff teams from each conference that have gotten into the playoffs without any selection committee at all. None. Nobody sitting in a room saying this team's better than that team, or I think this team would I think this team would be favored over that team on a neutral field. So even though that team's got a way better record, we're going to put this team in over that team because somebody in Vegas says they would win on a neutral field. It would eliminate all of that. The selection committee would disappear like that. you'd have your 16 playoff teams. Now you're sitting around going, well, what about Notre Dame? Fuck Notre Dame. Join the ACC. I mean, that would be it. The overcomplication of college football has gotten to a ridiculous level. Again, you cannot explain the current playoff system to a casual college football fan or a new college football fan who is trying to learn the sport. You can't explain it to them. It makes no sense. This is straightforward, cut and dry. You sit somebody down and they go, how does the college football postseason work? Oh, it's easy. Let me tell you. You got 4 major conferences. They play a 12-game regular season. At the end of the regular season, whoever is in first place in that conference, in each of the 4 conferences, is automatically in the playoffs. And then you have a one-day tournament where Team 2 plays Team 7, Team 3 plays 6, and 4 plays 5. And the winners of those 3 games are also in the playoffs. That's 4 teams per conference, 16 teams total, and then the playoffs start. It couldn't be any simpler. It couldn't be any simpler. Now, if you don't have a problem with the committee and you hate the idea of automatic qualifications, then just go with a 5+11 model. The 5 conference champions get in. I would eliminate it to 4. I don't think, look, the group of 5's got no business playing in the college football playoff. They don't. I'm sorry. They don't. I loved watching Ashton Genty play last year. Cincinnati had some great teams. Central Florida. Memphis is pretty good from year to year. Whatever, fill in the blank. There's good group of 5 teams from year to year. There has never been and there will never be a group of 5 team that can win 4 playoff games in a row against top 10 teams and win a national title. It will never happen. And it's a complete and utter 99% of the group of 5 teams have no chance of ever participating in the college football postseason playoff. They should break away and form their own. And they should have done it already. It shouldn't be a situation where the Power 4 or somebody has to tell them, we're not inviting you to the postseason anymore. They should have made that decision themselves a long time ago. It's a disservice to the thousands of group of 5 players that at most, one team a year is going to get a chance to what? Get the shit beat out of them in either round 1 or round 2? They've got no business in the postseason. So I would get rid of the group of 5, and I would tell Notre Dame, you don't have to join a conference, but our playoff system is for conferences. And then, let Notre Dame decide how valuable to them is their independence. You want to keep your independence? Great. Enjoy the Cheez-It Bowl against some team that doesn't make the playoffs, because the playoff structure is going to be designed for the top 4 teams in the 4 major conferences. And obviously the 4 major conferences would be the SEC, the ACC, the Big 10, and the Big 12. Well, there's not 4 teams in the Big 12 that deserve to make the playoffs. I don't care. I couldn't care less. I don't understand why people want to see. I'm an SEC guy. I don't understand why people want to see a playoff that's got 8, 9 SEC teams in it. I don't get it. And what do you think is going to happen if you go to the 5+11 model? Take a look at the final playoff rankings every single year they've had them. Take a look at the top 16. There's years where you'd have 7 or 8 SEC teams in the playoffs. Nobody wants that. I don't want that. The regular season is an SEC playoff. Okay? Don't lose 5 games. Don't lose 4 games. Don't lose 3 games. It's insanity. It's complete insanity. But if you really want to do that, then go to the 5+11. That's what you really want to do. I also don't agree that one conference should be guaranteed to get more teams in than another. The so-called 4+4+2+2+1. Well, the SEC and the Big 10 are bigger and badder and have more money than you, so we're going to get 4 teams in every year, no matter what, and you're only getting 2 teams in a year, no matter what. You're out of your mind if you don't think there's ever a scenario at any point down the road where Miami, Florida State, and Clemson are all top 10 teams in the same year. You are out of your mind. Now, Miami and Florida State have been struggling for a while, or whatever. Fill in the blank team. The idea that there will never be 3 ACC teams in the top 10 is ridiculous. It's just as ridiculous as thinking that every year there's going to be 4 teams in the top 10 that are SEC teams. It doesn't work that way. The SEC was the best conference in football for a long time. The Big Ten's the best conference in football right now. We don't know what's going to happen 10 years down the road. But here's the thing. Even if the SEC and the Big Ten remain better conferences football-wise than the Big 12 and the ACC, they don't deserve more teams into the postseason because of that. Again, no other league does that. The NFL doesn't sit around at the end of the season and go, the AFC was a lot better than the NFC. So we need to completely change the playoff structure and make it to where the AFC is guaranteed to get 12 teams in and the NFC only gets 8 teams in because we think the AFC is better. It just doesn't work that way. And it shouldn't work that way in college football. What is the point of being the best conference and bragging about that and then not having to play the other conferences in the postseason to prove it? Last year when the SEC tried to prove they were the best conference in the country, they got their ass beat year-round by the Big Ten. Middle-of-the-road Big Ten teams were slapping the SEC around like they were their bitch last year. Southern Cal could barely keep their head above water in the Big Ten. They beat LSU and Texas A&M. The worst Michigan team in 25 years beat Alabama. Illinois beat South Carolina. Ohio State beat not one but 2 playoff-worthy SEC teams en route to a national title. Do we need to? Shouldn't the Big Ten get more? Shouldn't the Big Ten get 5 and the SEC get 3? The SEC wants to tell the ACC, you're not as good as us, so you only get 2 teams and we get 4. Well, shouldn't the SEC tell the Big Ten, you're better than us, you get 5, we get 3? It's a ridiculous idea. 16-team playoff, 4 major conferences, each conference sends 4 teams, have the playoff. It would solve the problem. Conference expansion, couldn't care less about it. Don't care about the rumors. Don't care about the 100 videos you made last week about every single team in the country moving to some other conference tomorrow, the whole free beer tomorrow thing. Couldn't care. Don't care whether Florida State stays in the ACC forever or moves to another conference tomorrow. Don't care. I am so beyond the never-ending conspiracy theories about conference expansion. I couldn't care less if I never heard another word about it. What do I want to happen? My preference would have been we stayed at the 5. But it is what it is. The Pac-12 imploded. I know they're coming back, but look at the teams they're adding. They're not going to be a power conference. They're not going to be invited to the big boy table with the SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC, and it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So given where we're at now, can't turn the clock backwards. Given where we're at now, I'd prefer we stayed at the 4 conferences. Again, my playoff model would dictate that the conferences go to a maximum of 20 teams. That would give you 80 teams that would be a part of the quote-unquote Power 4. It would make sense to me that Notre Dame would join the ACC. They need the help, and you play it off from there. That's how I would settle that. But the conference expansion, they couldn't care less. Texas State's president put a tweet out this week with a Pac-12 logo on it. Great, join the Pac-12. Who the fuck cares? There's not a person watching this video right now that has ever in their entire life watched more than 10 minutes of a Texas State game. Not one. Not one. But 100,000 people want to make a video about Texas State joining the Pac. I couldn't care less. Memphis wants to stay in the Big East in basketball or something, but join the Pac-12 in football. Why? Why anybody would move from one G5 to another G5 is beyond me. Memphis should get scooped up by one of these other Power 4 conferences that needs help. Big 12, ACC. Why the ACC didn't add Memphis yesterday, I'll never know. I don't know. I have no clue. You had Stanford and Cal. In any random year, Memphis would beat them. So I don't know. This is why the ACC finds themselves in the situation that they're in. The ACC is not in the situation they're in because they made a series of really good decisions. No, because they made a series of really bad decisions. So conference expansion, I just don't care. Now, my playoff model would dictate that each conference go to a maximum of 20 teams, and Notre Dame join the ACC. But beyond that, just like the never-ending conference expansion shit, don't care outside of the fact that I don't want any other conferences to go away. I would prefer college football. Given where we're at, assuming you can't go backwards in time, because I liked the Power 5 model. Can't go backwards though. I want to just keep the 4 conferences the way they are. Well, They could expand, is what I'm saying, but I don't want any other conferences to go away. In other words, I'm not looking for the SEC and the Big Ten to gobble up all the name brands in the ACC and the Big 12 and form basically an NFL version of college football with just two major conferences. I'm not looking. I got no interest in that. 9 conference games. Yes, should have happened a long time ago. The SEC is the best conference for a long time. They won a bunch of national titles. And is it because they were playing 8 conference games? No, it wasn't. There was a myriad of reasons. That's not one of them. But they should go to 9 conference games. As a college football fan, none of us want to sit around and watch Alabama or Georgia or Florida or LSU or Tennessee or Texas A&M or whatever fill-in-the-blank SEC team beat up on some FCS school the next to the last week of the regular season in November. No one likes it. ESPN doesn't like it because no one watches it. College football fans don't like it because it's terrible fucking football. It's just an opportunity for players to get hurt for absolutely no reason. It's all risk, no reward. You don't get any credit at all from voters, from fans, from media, from anybody for beating up on Charleston Southern in November. But God forbid you lose to them, you'll never hear the end of it. So there's just no benefit. Well, we have to pay them, or we pay them, and without the money that those smaller schools get from playing these big schools, they'd go on. That we're a capitalism country, dummy. You can't spend 99% of your time drooling about political shit on the internet that you don't understand, all in the name of capitalism, and then turn around and tell me you think Alabama should have to pay Furman $500,000 a year so that Furman can keep their football program afloat. That's socialism. If they can't afford to keep their football program afloat, then bye-bye football program. I don't want to see those games. And again, I already told you in my model, they can play 2 of those teams a year. You can play Charleston Southern and Mercer in week 1 and week 2 if that's what you want to do. But it's got to be week 1 and week 2. And then you got to play a Power 5 opponent or Power 4 opponent in week 3. And then you got to play 9 conference games. Okay? You cannot have a league of any kind at any level, recreation soccer, middle school softball, high school track and field, or college football. You cannot have a league anywhere on any level if everybody is not operating under the same rules and guidelines. And that goes not just for scheduling, but for everything else. So like you talk about the House settlement that just came down, and there's some states that are passing laws saying that schools within that state don't have to follow the House settlement. Yeah, you do. If you want to be a part of the conference, and shout out to the Big Ten and the SEC. They don't get everything right, but they got this right. Both the Big Ten and the SEC are requiring that all of their member institutions sign a contract agreeing to follow the rules of the House settlement. Not because they think the House settlement is the end-all, be-all, and the greatest thing for college football ever. There's things they don't like about it, but they understand that to have any semblance of competitive balance at all in the world of college football, we all have to be operating under the same sets of rules and guidelines. Same number of conference games, same number of Power 4 opponents. All have to agree to operate under that $20 or $21 million cap and everything else associated with the House settlement. There has to be agreement on the basic rules and guidelines of college football, and there has to be a way to punish the teams that don't. There just has to be, or you don't have a league at all. At all. And that gets me to the last point I want to make here, which is the need for a college football commissioner or a college football commission. A commissioner denotes one person. A commission would be a group of people. Greg Sankey takes a lot of heat for some of the things he says and some of the stances he takes in regards to the SEC. Petitti at the Big Ten, same way. And Big 12 commissioner and ACC commissioner, same thing. And you say, well, they should be looking out for the interests of college football. It is not Greg Sankey's job or Petitti's job or any conference commissioner's job to look out for what's best for college football. That's not why they were hired. That's not their job description. That's not what they're hired to do. They are hired to advocate for and push for what is best for their particular conference. And I would argue that Greg Sankey has done a better job of that than any conference commissioner in the history of college football. Now, some of that has led to some of the things we don't like about college football, But that's a top-down problem, not a Greg Sankey problem. The NCAA has abdicated responsibility from almost all things college football, and there is nobody in charge of all of college football, and there needs to be. There needs to be a college football commissioner that can standardize scheduling. You have to play 9 conference games, and you have to play 10 Power 4 opponents, minimum. It's standard across the board. And if you don't, you're not eligible for the postseason. It's that simple. It's literally that simple. You have to agree to abide by the terms of the House settlement and this $20 to $21 million salary cap that you're able to that you're allowed to pay. You have to sign on to this NIL regulatory arm that is reviewing NIL deals. And if they turn an NIL deal down for one of your players, you have to agree to accept that it got turned down. Someone has to be in charge. Someone's got to be in charge. And right now, there's nobody in charge. And that's why the SEC wants this, and Big Ten wants that, and the ACC wants something else, and the Big 12 says this, and the Group of Five is sitting around going, well, what about us? You know, and Notre Dame's like, well, we're just going to do what we want and play games on NBC that nobody watches. There's nobody in charge. There's nobody in charge. I absolutely love college football. I think it's the greatest sport ever invented. I think it's the greatest sport on earth. I am more passionate about college football than almost anything in this world outside of maybe my kids and my family. I absolutely love college football. And I'm not one of these people that says, oh, college football is ruined, I'm never watching it again. I'm the exact type of idiot that modern day college football is designed to take advantage of. I love college football so much, I will continue to watch almost no matter what they do. And they know that, and they're counting on that. It's like the old joke where the guy gets slapped in the face and, you know, thank you, sir, can I have another? And he hits him again, and he's like, thank you, sir, can I have another? I'm that idiot. But that doesn't mean that college football is perfect and some things don't need to change. Now, most of what I've said in this video is never going to happen. This isn't a video of me predicting what I think is going to happen. This was what I would do if I could snap my fingers and fix some of these problems. I hate talking about these things. They bore me. They're not interesting to me. I like watching college football games. I like talking about things that matter on the field. All of this off the field stuff about which conferences make how much money and we need more money to do this and why did we get this TV deal and how long is this TV deal and this, you know, this conference is on this channel and that conference is on that channel and that means that this channel is biased against these teams and in favor of these. I get so sick of it, I can't even see straight. So I'm not going to make another video about this, hopefully for the remainder of this off season. But that's what I would do. That's my thoughts on the playoffs, conference expansion. How many conference games should we be playing? What should happen in Notre Dame? How many teams should be in the playoffs? A committee versus an automatic qualification method, conference championship weekend, what I would do and what I think should happen to that. We should be playing home playoff games, by the way. Only the Final Four and the championship game, in my opinion, should be neutral sites. I think college football should be played on college campuses. Whole other issue there. But anyway, that's my thoughts on it. I hope I don't have to talk about that anymore this offseason, but there you go. Have a good morning.